Ta-da! I mean, there's not many people, right? But that's fine. That's cool. I know that you guys are the elite. You're the best of the best, so to speak. Um, yeah, sorry about that scheduling reminder. That was a big boo boo, wasn't it? I messed up there. I'm going to blame YouTube because that's the cool thing to do, right? Blame something goes wrong. Blame YouTube. It's um, never the YouTuber's fault. Except in this case, it probably was my fault. What did it say? In 7 hours. I don't even what's in 7 hours. That's like 5 in the afternoon. I don't know how I managed to get 5 in the afternoon. Look, I don't know. Okay, I I can't really put it down to tiredness because I actually got, for the first time in a long time, I got a decent night's sleep. Um, Although I did struggle to get out of bed this morning, but who cares? Who cares about my well-being? That's right. Let's crack on with this. So we've got our adventure game. In the last video, just as a quick recap, just to make sure that we're all on the same page here, we have a list which is storing our list of rooms. We created 4 empty rooms here, added names and descriptions to each of the rooms. And then we set up some links between the rooms here, and then we created a move function, which basically, I mean, really, the move function doesn't need to do much other than alter the player's position. But what the main point was this here, checking to make sure that the when we say move to this room, it checks to make sure that that room actually exists, so the program doesn't crash. There was a special word beginning with V. Can anyone remember what that special word beginning with V was, which describes this whole checking for errors thing? Begins with V. Feel free to discuss amongst yourselves. Throw out guesses if you want. It begins with V. I'll gradually give you more clues. V-A. V-A. V-A-L. Not variable. Good guess, but it's not variable. V-A-L. V-A-L-I. It's not value. It's not Valhalla. Okay, let me phrase this in another way. Looks like Louis got it. Validation is the correct answer. This is validation, okay? So the word validation, and we are going to cover this in later lessons if school ever happens again. We are going to look at validation. Validation is basically checking to make sure that your data is not going to crash your program. There are a number of different ways that you can do it. This is one way. There are more refined ways. We'll have a look at all of the different types of validation. We may even look at verification, which is a similar thing, but not quite the same. Okay, so that's about as far as we got. And then we did a little bit of testing down here. Now, I'm going to show you all, just before I carry on, if position in room. No, that would not work because rooms is a... I assume you mean position in rooms. That would not work because position is simply a number, and our rooms list is a list of dictionaries. So it would not find that thing in the in the thing. What the heck is what noise? What noise? Oh, is it my phone thing again? I'll move my phone over there so you don't hear that buzzing noise. So just before I carry on, does everyone have some code roughly approximating that? Does anyone want me to paste this code for them in the Discord so they can grab that code, or are we all good to crack on and continue with the rest of it? James is good. Of course he is. Anyone with Squirtle as their profile picture is obviously some sort of legend. Ollie's good. I can't tell what your profile picture is, but it looks like a very nice view. Right, I've heard no one say, oh, I need the code, so I'm going to carry on. But before I do that, I'm going to show you something very useful. So, up until now, I've had this this test code at the bottom here, right? So we run the program and we carry out these little tests to make sure that everything's working. Now, as we go forward, we're going to make the program increasingly more complex, and we might want to test out other bits without having to write all of the tests and then running them in the hope that they all work. So I'm going to show you something fairly cool that you can do with PyCharm, and I hope this is going to work, but something tells me it ain't gonna. If I go to run, yep, that window doesn't appear. So I'm just going to tell you here. If you go to run, on mine it's about 2 centimeters down. It is the 6th option. There is a button that says Edit Configurations, and if you click Edit Configurations, you will get this screen pop up. Okay, you will get this screen pop up. Here's my amazing on-the-fly editing there. Okay, so you go to Run and you go to Edit Configurations. Now, for the most part, you shouldn't have to touch any of this stuff, but there is one little button here which can be very helpful. I don't recommend that you have it on for all of your programs, but if you want to be able to run your program and then interact with it by typing in commands to the program, then if you tick Run with Python console, okay, then something cool happens. Let's tick Run with Python console and go to OK. And now, when I run my program, you can see not only does it run down here, but also I get interactive input. So I can now do things like this. I can say print player pos, and it should tell me what my player pos is there. I can do print rooms like that, and it will tell you print rooms. If yours was already ticked, then you're one step ahead of us all, Jennifer. The other awesome thing is on the right hand side, it will tell you what variables currently exist, and you can browse those variables. It's kind of like a debugger, almost. It's not quite the same as the actual debugger, which we'll look at later on. But you can see here, I've got my rooms variable. I can see player pos is 3, right? And for some reason, I is also 3. But if I click on the little drop down here next to rooms, you can see here are all of the different rooms that exist, and I can even see here's the first room and its name, the first room and its description. Okay, there's a whole bunch of other stuff here. Right? So this can be super useful for trying to pinpoint where errors might occur. Okay? And we can obviously do things like this. We can say move 3. And you'll see instantly, I mean, it might be Now this is interesting because I thought that that should have changed player position, but it apparently hasn't. Or has it? No, it hasn't. Why has that not happened? We've got a potential problem here. What if I say move 1? Does that work? No, that doesn't work either. I wonder why that's not working. Maybe because there's a move command already in. Well, all I'm doing is calling my move function. See? That exists. What if I do move -1? Okay, so it's definitely calling the function here, right? But I don't really understand why it's not set in player position, considering that we've called. No, this doesn't make any sense to me. This is not me pretending to be baffled here. This is me actually not understanding why this is not working. In theory, it should change player position, but it doesn't. We set player position to global there. I'm just going to test something out here. Let me stop that code running. If you're ever in these sorts of situations and things aren't happening how you expect them to happen, you can always do things like this, right? In the bits of code you're trying to work out whether or not your program has reached this part of the code, you can just issue some print commands. Should change position, for instance, there. Okay, so now when I run my code, if I say move 2, okay, so it's definitely getting to this point, but why on earth is it not setting that? Okay, we might have to change some parts of this. I genuinely don't know what's going on here. Another thing that I'm going to try here is rather than doing it interactively down here, I'm going to try coding this stuff in. So if I say move 2, what should happen is it should set player position to position. So now I can print player pos, and player pos should be 2 at this point. Right, okay, so that works. That's really weird, isn't it? Okay. Move 2, move 1. Yeah. There's some strangeness going on there. Okay, let's not worry about it. At least we know that our code does actually work. Yeah, I mean it's very confusing. Okay, so maybe ignore what I'm just saying here. It doesn't all the lesson to take away from this is that things don't always work the way that you expect them to work. Hang on, there is one thing that I'm going to try though. Let me just bear with me 1 second. Got an idea. Let's try this one more time. No, that didn't work either. Weird. Yeah, leave that with me. I will try and work out what's actually going on there. See, I can change it there. Okay, well, Never mind. Right. Ben is getting an import error. That's odd because we're not actually importing anything. Are you sure you're definitely running this program? Control Shift F10 to make sure that you're running the program that you have open. Okay. I'm going to try something. Hang on, I've got no, because it does actually work. Okay, I'm gonna sort of move on to the next bit here. All right. So anyway, we know through testing, even though some of the testing was a little bit janky, we know that our move function works, even if it seemed like it didn't when I was doing it interactively there. I mean, it might be something to do with the fact that I'm setting a global variable here. The variable was changing from blue to red over here, which indicates that it's been changed. So I don't know. But anyway, let's move on and not worry about it. Trust me, there is nothing to worry about here. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is we want to be able to actually display the description of the rooms that we are in. Right? We can move around, but for some reason, well, not for some reason, for the reason that we haven't actually put a display. I think I know what's causing that problem, you know. I'm not going to try and fix it. All right. I'll try and fix it off camera. So we need to have a function which is going to show the description of the rooms. Okay. So we're going to say def, and I tell you what, before I do that, just going to add what's called a docstring to the move function. This is kind of like a comment that tells you what the function does. So if you put 3 quote marks and then hit enter, you'll automatically get this sort of template that allows you to fill this stuff out. Move player to specified position. Okay, if you get into the habit of commenting your functions, then you can, it makes it easier to see what's going on with your code. Right, your PyCharm is frozen. Try closing it and opening it again. I mean, I don't really know. Yeah, I mean, Alex, your solution there, put it in a class, remove global, and so yeah, that would be the ideal solution. But I ain't gonna mess around with it now. So the parameter position is an int, okay, and what it does is it's the position to move to. Okay, simple, and return none. Okay, so this is a brief explanation of what is going on in the function. This is what the function does. It moves the player to the specified position. It's got a single parameter, which is an integer, and it's called position. Okay, and that holds the position to move the player to, and return, it doesn't return anything, so I've put none. Maybe that should be capital N for none. Okay. So from this point on, I'm going to carry on adding these doc strings whenever we create a new function. Yeah, Evie, you're on a Mac, right? I don't know what the shortcut on a Mac is to close the program. Although if you open a terminal, I don't know whether this is going to work. I don't know whether you have an option to open a terminal on your Mac, but if you type in kill 9 pgrep PyCharm, if you type that in in a terminal window, that should kill the process potentially. I don't know. Failing that, turn the power off, turn it back on again. We'll still be here when you get back. I'm sorry I can't be more help. Right, are we all clear on this idea of docstrings? They're sort of like super comments. You can also set PyCharm up so that it'll give you tooltips so when you add these functions, you get little tooltips telling you what the different parameters are going to be, and it will read in your docstrings and dynamically sort them out. But those is that fine? The whole thing about docstrings. Yeah? Yes? No? Maybe? Right, I'm gonna assume it is. So the next function that we're going to create is called show description. So here we go. Def show description. And the only thing that we're going to pass to this is the room that we want to show the description of. Okay, so I'm going to add my docstring here, and this function is going to print something. Basically, it's going to print the name of the room, and then it's going to print a blank line, and then it's going to print the description of the room. Okay, now obviously there's you can do things like colored text and stuff like that if you want to get fancy, but I will let you work out how to do that. So for now, let's just get this docstring in here. Prints the name and description of the current room. Okay, so the room is going to be an integer. I'm going to say that I'll put specified room. Okay, the room. I'll put the index of the room to display info on. Okay, and return again is none. Okay, so basically we're going to say here is a room, print out the information. But again, we're going to put some more of that validation in here. Okay, so we want to make sure that it's actually a room that exists. So I can kind of reuse this code here. Let's put that down there. But it's not position that we're checking, it's room. Okay, so if the room is not below 0 and is not greater than the length of the rooms array, we are going to print out the room index out of bounds. But instead of saying player is not moved, we're obviously going to say unable to display description. Okay, so this basically means if you try and display the description of a room that doesn't exist, rather than your program just crashing on you, it's going to gracefully say, sorry, that room doesn't exist. Okay, now generally speaking, you probably won't ever see that if you've programmed it well and you've got it set up in a way that that prevents the wrong rooms being sent to the function in the first place. But it's always a good idea to put these validation checks in just in case. Okay, because there's nothing worse than having a game crash to the desktop. It's always better to have it, handle it gracefully, and maybe you get some sort of buggy output. Just sort that Okay, so here we go. We are going to... I'm just going to put a comment here. Validation check. And then here, print description. Okay, so remember, each room is a dictionary. So what we can do is, and again, we're kind of using global variables here, which is fairly bad, but in this instance, because it's a list and it's dictionaries, it doesn't really matter too much because of the way that Python handles those. Okay, so we're going to say print rooms, room. Okay, so what that's going to do is it's going to go to the list of rooms and it's going to find the room that we have specified, because remember, room is an index, so that's going to be either 0, 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. Yeah, why is there 2 pie charms there? Good question. Let's fix that. There we go, fixed. Except, I see a problem here. Thanks for pointing that out. Sometimes my streaming software messes up on me. That still didn't work. I've got an idea. Why? Why though? Right. I'm gonna fix something quickly here. Things might go a little bit weird and then go back to normal, we hope. There we go. Right, I fixed it. Sorry about that. I'm a bit of a muppet when it comes to these things. I don't realise that these things are going on. So we are going to the list of rooms and we are giving them a number so we can pull out one of our rooms, and then we want to reach into the dictionary there and pull out the name. Okay, so all that's doing is going into, in fact, I can kind of show you here, depending on how easy it is for you to see this text. I've got a list of rooms, so if I specified room 1, I would go into my rooms array here. Here is room 1 there, and I'm pulling out the name item, which is outside the log cabin. Okay. So the next thing we want to do is print a blank line. And not a lot of people know this, but if you just do print like that, it will print a blank line. Why have I got a stray piece of hair going down there? Okay. And then we want to print the description. Well, the line to print the description is going to be essentially the same as that there. But instead of saying name, we're going to say description. And in theory, that should work. Okay, we can test it out now. If I just run my code, let's see if we can say print description. Let's find out what room 0 has to offer. No, because it's show description. Okay, show description, we still got an error. Just going to double check that I'm actually running the right thing here. What have I done wrong? I've spelt description wrong. Imagine being that much of an idiot. Right? Imagine being able to, like, you know, claim that you're a teacher when you can't even spell description and you don't even notice. Right, so here we go. Show description. I can't type again. Show description 0. Yes, it works. Inside the log cabin. You stand inside a cramped but cosy log cabin. The smell of wood smoke hangs heavy in the air. Can't talk now. A door stands in the south wall of the cabin, allowing access to the outside world. We can test this out again. We can say show description. What if I try 5? I should, in theory, get an error message, right? Yeah, I am using Linux. Arch Linux, to be precise. I highly recommend it if you want to learn how operating systems actually work, but don't go into it thinking it's going to be an easy ride. So we can see that if we send a room that doesn't exist, we get an error message. Let's just check it with a negative number. Show description -1. Boom. We can also test it out with our current player position. So we can say player pos. There we go. Player pos is currently 0. I mean, installing Arch isn't really that much of a big deal as long as you actually read up about it before you start. I think there's a lot of people that go into these things sorry, I just saw Jenny's message there. I got that error and I haven't spelled anything wrong. So are you getting the error that says the it's not defined? Just double check that you are running the right program. Double check that you are typing it in right. If in any doubt, you can always do this. You can copy your the function name here. And then you can paste it in there, okay, and then you can just change the number there, okay. Oh, I'm just going to remove my test code here. Just going to try something out. Don't know if this will work. No, it won't work. Ignore that. Right. So are we good for the show description stuff? Is everything sort of working as you'd expect? I mean, we can do a little bit of automated test code down here. So in a typical game, we might start off in one room, show the name and description of that room, and then move, and then show the name and description of the next room, and so on and so forth. So we can simulate that, if you like, by saying show description. In fact, yeah, this is what we're going to do. We're going to say for I in range 4, because there's 4 rooms. We are going to say show description player pos, and then we are going to say move I, and that's it. What this should do, in theory, is go through all of our rooms, okay, moving to each of the rooms in turn, showing the name and description, okay. If you're expecting 32 blank lines, you can keep your expectations to yourself, right? You know what? In order to do this. No, that seems to have worked. Look, there we go. We've got inside the log cabin. You stand inside a cramped but cozy log cabin. The smell of wood smoke hangs heavy in the air. A door stands in the south wall of the cabin, allowing access to the outside world. But then for some reason we've got inside the log cabin again. Oh, of course, yeah, because we've moved to the same position. I should have put move first. Inside the log cabin. Just done that one. Outside the log cabin. You're outside a log cabin high in the Swiss Alps. Although it is the height of winter and the peaks all around you are blanketed in snow, the bright sunshine feels warm on your skin. A narrow path extends to the east and west following a mountain stream. The precipice. You follow the path to the west as it follows the stream downhill. Abruptly, the path stops and falls away sharply. Peering over the edge of the cliff, you watch the water of the stream plunge into the white haze several hundred meters below. I should do books on audible.com, shouldn't I? I've just moved that around so we move and then do it. Cable car station. You're in front of a cable car station. It looks as if it was built centuries ago. The huge wrought iron pulleys straining as they relentlessly pull cars up and down the mountainside. To the west, a path follows a small stream down towards a log cabin. If any of you guys want me to do any dramatic readings of stories and or rap songs, you know where to come. Exactly. Who needs Audible? Who needs Audible? Okay. Are we confident now that our movement works, our showing of description works? We're ready to get some input in there, right? Are we? Is that? Oh, are we fine? Is that where we're at? Why is my program printing everything 4 times? I don't know. Did you move? If it's printing everything 4 times, make sure that you've actually moved. Make sure that you have the move function. I like that attitude, Jenny. I have an error, but I'll figure it out. That is cool. That's exactly what you should be thinking. However, if it's preventing progress, then do let me know. I'll try and help it out. Feel free as well to discuss this on Discord with each other as well. Right, so we're all cool, yeah? We're ready to move on and actually get some player input going in on the blend here, yeah? Yeah, your len probably will look different. It depends how many rooms you've got, right? And this error checking as well. There's multiple different ways of doing that. You could, for instance, say if room is greater than or equal to 0 and room is less than len rooms. You could do it that way. Right, so I'm going to move on to the input here. Now, we're going to have 2 different functions here. One of the functions is essentially going to be an error checking function to make sure that what the user has typed in is not going to break the system. This is to try and catch what's called runtime errors, which are the most horrible of errors, because syntax errors, your program will tell you about the syntax errors when you try and run it. Semantic errors you will notice when you are playing, but runtime errors, those are the ones that are caused by user inputs, and generally speaking, you can't trust the users to behave themselves, right? If you're ever in a situation where you write a program and you find out that it crashes if you do a specific thing, which is not what you should be doing, don't ever think that the users won't do that because it's not what you're supposed to do. You know, as an example, if I was testing a driving game, as I have done many times in the past, the first thing that I'm going to do is reverse from the start line. That's why I found, have you seen the movie Ready Player One? Oh, no one's found this secret until he decided to drive backwards from the start line. No, get out. That secret would have been found within seconds of that race being announced. Because anyone that's ever worked in QA, the first thing that they do when they're testing a driving game is drive backwards from the start line. Okay, it's not intended behavior, but you can't assume that the users won't do it, right? The other thing as well, if you want bugs in driving games, which still exist, Colin McRae Rally 3, there's one stage where you're driving along and the sun gradually sets. Okay, and it looks amazing. It's really nice, considering how old that game is. That's like PS2, is it? Or PS1 even? The sun sets as you get closer to the start line. But turn yourself around and go back the other way, the sun rises again. Because they tied in the height position of the sun with the position of you on the racetrack. Of course, that bug is in the bug database. It was entered in the bug database, but it was like, well, you know what? No one's really going to notice that. Of course, now you are all going to go and track down a copy of Colin McRae Rally 3, and you are going to find that bug, or you're going to totally ignore it. Big rigs over road racing. Yeah, okay, whatever. Right, cool. So we're ready to get some input in here. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to have a function that reads what the player has typed in, and it's going to check to make sure that what they have typed in is a command that is recognized by the game. Otherwise, it's going to tell them, I don't know how to do that. Okay, if you've ever played any text adventures, you will know how frustrating it is when you need to interact with something and you can't for the life of you find out what the right verb is to interact with it, because none of these games have something like use item with item. It's always a case of, you know, I don't know, insert item into hole or something like that, you know, reciprocate item. But enough of my waffle. Let's get these functions. Our first one is going to be read input. Okay, we're going to read the input from the user. Now we could just use Python's input function, and we are going to do that, but we also want to just double check that what they have typed in is acceptable input. It's not going to take any parameters, but it is going to return a value. It's going to return either the command that the user has typed in, or it's going to return false if they've typed in something which is bad. Now, the code that I'm going to write here is different to the code which is in the document. It's only slightly different. The code that's in the document, I feel kind of bad for having written that. So this is sort of an improved version. Maybe I'll go back and change the original, but I mean it just changes. There's a very slight change. There was a reason for me doing it the way I did in the original document, but I think this way is going to be slightly better. It's only a minor change. Okay, so reads player input and checks for errors. That's not how you spell errors. Before can't type, processing. You ever have that thing where you're typing and then you think of something and you end up typing the name of the thing you're thinking of? All the time. Right, return false if incorrect input. Otherwise, it's going to return the player input. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is actually get some input from the player. So we're going to say player input equals input. What now? Question mark. What I usually like to do here is something like this. I put a blank line and then I have this little prompt there. It just makes it look a little bit nicer for the user to type in. But you'll see what it looks like when we run it. Okay. Now we are going to. One thing that I always see from GCSE students is they will say, "Do you want to continue? Yes or no?" And then they'll say something like, "If player input equals yes," or player input equals capital Y. You don't need to do that. Okay, I'm going to show you a way that you can avoid doing all of that stuff, and it's super easy. All we're going to do is convert this to lowercase. Okay, so we're going to say player input equals player input dot lower. Okay, that will take whatever input they've taken in and it will convert it to lowercase. Okay, if you want to convert it to uppercase, you can do dot upper as well. Okay, don't forget the parentheses on the end there. If you forget them, your code will not work. There you go, a little bit of opera for you in the morning here. Right, so first of all, we want to check to see if what the user has typed in is a direction. One of the compass directions. North, south, east, west. I'm going to also show you that you can add other ones in there as well. It's entirely up to you what sorts of directions you want in there as well. Okay, so we're going to say if player input in, I'm just going to scroll this up a little bit so we can see it. If it's in this list of potential things, north, south, east, west, northeast, southeast, not north-south, that's not a thing, southwest, northwest. Okay, so we got 8 different directions we can go in. Maybe, as well, you might want to have up or down. You might want to have in or out as well. I mean, it's up to you. These are the directions. I'm not going to bother with up or down here because I want to keep things simple. Obviously, we are then going to check if they have. If they've typed a direction and that is not a direction that they can actually go in, should we check it here or should we? No, I'm not gonna check it here. That's okay. We're going to return player input. It is not the job of read input to check whether we can go this way or not. That's the check. That's the job of process input. Okay. Okay. So if it's not in that list, okay. For now. Yeah, let's just test this out. We're gonna say if it's not in that list of directions, if they've typed in something that isn't a direction, we're gonna say, look, I don't know how to do that. So we're gonna print, I don't know how to, and this is the point where kids will have immense amounts of fun typing in rude words and stuff like that. You know what? I'm going to put some quote marks around there as well. Single quote there. Obviously, I'm encapsulating my string in double quotes, so I can put a single quote in there. Exclamation mark. Right. So what this basically does is it checks to see if the user has typed in a valid compass direction. If they have, it is going to send that back. If it hasn't, it is going to send back false. And also print out a message saying it doesn't know how to do that. Okay. In my original code in the document, I had it returning two values, a true or false value, and then the text. But that's a little bit messy. So I've changed that. Okay. So if I run this now, if I go read input, in fact, because it's going to return a value, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to say print read input. Okay, well, what now? Can you see how adding that new line and the little prompt? I mean, when we actually run this, not in the interactive shell, it's going to look a little bit better than that. If I type in one of the compass directions, south, okay, that works. Let's try it again. By the way, pressing the up arrow will access previously typed in commands. Right? I assume you all know that. So what now? If I type in a capital letter here, it should still recognize it, even though it's not a capital in here, because it's being converted to lower case there. Okay, boom. Yeah. If I type in something, let's do something like this. What now? Win my father's love and appreciation and respect. Okay, I don't know how to win my father's love and appreciation and respect. Ha 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 ha! Hilarious, right? Is that funny? Is that funny? Edgy memes 101, right? But the point is, we now have this function which doesn't actually do anything with that. Doesn't actually do anything with that information. All this is it reads the player input, it checks it for validity again, okay, and then it either sends back what the player's put if it's something valid, or it says, nope, that ain't right. Okay? Now, obviously, we want the player to be able to do more than just go in these directions. Okay, so I'm going to add an extra thing in here. We're going to say elif player input equals look, because we want the player to be able to look at their surroundings. We're going to say return player input. Okay, and the way that this is structured means that if you choose to add additional commands in, you can just add them into this read input. This is basically our validator. Okay, so you can add another elif. Okay, but yeah, that's where we'll that's where we'll leave the thing here. So, you know, if I'm going to have to start my program again. If I say no, don't ever say that. If I say print read input there, let's run that. What now? If I say look, okay, instead of saying I don't know how to look, it's actually going to recognize that as a valid command. Okay, so maybe up here I will put add valid commands here. Now, things might get a little bit more complicated if you want to be able to interact with multiple objects. That's beyond the scope of what we're looking at today, but I might do another video that sort of explains all of that. How are we looking? How long have we been going for now? We've been going for over an hour. But are you guys all right to carry on just to do the process input, and then on Friday we'll have a look at pulling all of this together? Is that cool? Okay, cool. So let's just do the final function of today. Is the process input function. Now, obviously, if any of this is going over your head, feel free to message me on Discord about it so I can help you out. I'm assuming, though, if you remain silent, I'm assuming that that means you understand it. Just out of interest, though, it is useful for me to get some feedback. Is this video series more helpful than just the document on its own? Is this helping you understand what's going on with your programming more? Just say yay or nay as I type in this function here. Okay, so we're going to say process input command. You see, I mean, this is the sort of thing that I would love to do at school, but it's so hard with everyone like chatting all the time. It means I can't carry on with this stuff because I mean, if when we go back, what I'd really like is for people to think, you know what, I learned actually quite a lot when I was at home. Maybe let's bring that attitude into the classroom as well. But I mean, I can dream, all right, I can dream. How do I read a variable but the name of the variable is stored in another variable? I don't know really what you mean by that there. You probably have to use some sort of dictionary thing or use the eval command, but be careful with eval. Right, here we go. Here is our docstring. So we're saying executes the commands issued by the player. So all we're doing is we are passing a command. Remember, we've already checked to make sure the command is valid up here, so we know we're passing a valid command. So we don't really need to check that. There's only one thing that we need to do, and that's to check to make sure that the room that they are currently in, if they give a compass direction, we need to check that they can actually move in that direction. Yeah, I know those people probably aren't in the stream. It's a sadness, really, but I mean, what can I say? You guys are just going to get better jobs and earn more money. If there's an economy left after all of this. Jokes. Right, so the command, command is going to be a string. It is the command issued by the player. I'm going to say the command to be processed. Okay, and what are we returning? We're not actually returning anything because we're just doing the thing, right? So we could potentially return a Boolean value, which is either true or false, depending on whether the command's successfully executed, but it doesn't matter. I mean, look, don't worry about economic downturns. There's ultimately, money is not really that important. Health is more important. And yes, I know that you need a certain amount of money to not die and stuff like that. But people made it through the crash of 2008, even if they did lose their jobs. Yeah. But you go on, you retrain, you do something different. You guys will be fine. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Don't spend your money on crap, though. And that's the rule for life. So first of all, if the command is a direction, we want to move in that direction. Okay, so we're going to say if command in. Do you know what I'm going to do, actually? Instead of having this list here, I'm going to create, right at the very start, I'm going to create a set up constants. Right at the very start, I'm going to say directions. Okay, directions equals that, right? It means that if we ever want to change the directions, we don't have to go and look for every place we put it in. We can just edit it here and it will automatically fit in. Okay, so just make sure I've added that right at the very start. Okay, and then down here in my read input, I've put if player input in directions. Yeah. Yeah, I mean you could refactor, but don't rely on your IDE to do your maintenance for you. Okay, it's always better to make sure that you've written maintainable code. Okay, so if command in directions, boom, we can say move. So the room's player position. Sorry, I don't want normal brackets there, I want square brackets. And command. Because remember, command is either going to be north, south, east, west, and each room, if I just bring up my list of rooms here, okay, each room has a list of directions that you can go in. So if you are saying rooms, let's say rooms 0, I can see rooms 0 here. Let's say our command was S for south. S will return 1. So that's like saying move 1, which then takes us to the next room. Okay? I'm hoping that that makes sense what's going on there. If it doesn't make sense, let me know. Please let me know. I'll draw some diagrams for you. See, if I had my whiteboard, I'd draw it on the whiteboard to show you what was going on. But if you need this sort of like showing exactly what's going on, I'll draw it. Maybe I'll just draw a picture for next time anyway. Okay. We are also going to have an elif command equals look. Well, if the command equals look, then we are going to show the description of the room that the player is currently in. Simple. That, my friends, is process input. Okay, and we can test it out. Yeah, if we just do a quick thing here, if I say process input read input, so it's going to read the input and then it's going to pass whatever I've typed in to the process input command. Let's check this out. Okay, what now? We're currently in room. If I type in look, it should give us the description of the room, and there we go, we're inside the log cabin. Boom. And if I do that again, if I try and go north, it should say you can't go that way. No, it gives us an error. Okay, so maybe there's some things to oh yeah, I know what I've done here. There's some validation. There's some validation that I need to put in. I'll put it in quickly, and then maybe I'll wrap things up for today. Because remember, all that we've done here, we've checked to make sure that it's a valid direction, but we haven't checked to make sure that it actually exists within the current room. Okay, so we're going to do something fancy, which I'm not going to explain to you right now. I'm going to explain to you next time. We're going to say if command. How are we going to do that? In rooms, player position, dot keys. Okay. Dot keys brings out a list of all of the keys that are used in the dictionary. It's just a way to find out whether or not this actually exists in the dictionary. if it's in there, we are going to move there. Otherwise, we're going to print out. You can't go that way. Else print. You can't go that way. For God's sake, Karen. Okay, so maybe you could add a command speak to manager or something like that. Let's run that. Let's just double check that one more time. We are going to process input, read input. Let's try and go north. You can't go that way. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, look is not defined. What? Oh, of course, because I didn't actually run the command. There we go. Let's have a look there. Okay, that works. Let's see if we can move south. In theory, it should take us to the next room. Okay, let's try and look around again. Now we're outside the log cabin. It works. Okay, we have the jankiest player input imaginable. Okay, I mean, you could package this up and call it a hacking sim if you want, but I wouldn't do that. What we're going to have a look at next time is how we tie it all together with a game loop, which is going to handle all of the input and the output. Okay, I appreciate that this has gone on for longer than some people expected. If you need to go elsewhere and do other lessons, that is fine. I will be on Discord all day to help you out with your problems. Feel free to ask about them. Can you use a variable being true in an if statement? Yeah, of course you can. So you can say if let's say I have a variable. Let's call happy equals true. I could then say if happy print excellent. Okay, and there we go. Okay, you can say if happy equals true like that, but there's no need for the equals true. You can just say if happy. Okay. Why can I not use the Python console without getting an input error? I do not know. I cannot answer that question without seeing your specific situation. Okay. Are we all sort of good up to this point? Would you like me to paste my code in the Discord so that you can see the whole thing? Or are you all kind of cool with where we are up to? Cool. I will... I'll upload the what's it called. Feel free to re-watch both streams if you need to. We will carry on with this on Friday. We'll tie it all together, and then by the end of this week, we will have a working, if somewhat bare bones, text adventure. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some challenges to incorporate additional commands and stuff like that. I'll give you some guidance on it, but that's basically what we're heading towards. All right. Any further questions before I sign off? I ain't going to be playing the games until they're all finished, so it's not going to be until I've wrapped up this this series. But we should have this done by Friday, so maybe on Monday that's when I'll do some playing of the games. Okay. If cliff equals near, jump equals true, that would be better if you did instead of making true a string, make it a boolean. Like that. That would be better code. There you go. So, I assume that everything's good. Yeah. Good. Yes. Don't forget to smash that like button. Subscribe to me on, I don't know, TikTok or something. And if you go to NordVPN/Warrener Computer Science, you'll get a 404 file not found error. I don't have an OnlyFans. I'm not attractive enough for that. Okay, here we go. That's the end. Thank you for coming, everybody. Thank you for being wonderful, wonderful people, as always. And I will see you. I need a sign off message. See you next time. Sounds kind of lame. So it's your job to come up with a sign off message. Maybe incorporate it into a new outro. But that's the end. Thank you.